Good morning. Morning. My name's, that's me. I'm Ian Wright, Managing Director of the Disruptive Innovators Network, and welcome to BT Centre. What a fantastic venue, what a fantastic audience that we've got here for you today.
First principle is know what you want to achieve. So for those observant people, this is a North Star. Every organisation needs a North Star. AO's North Star in the early days was we're going to disrupt the white goods industry. So that was all about, we couldn't buy the category online very well. We're only 2 years older than Google. John Roberts, our entrepreneur, he saw an opportunity. So we created that vision to say, how are we going to disrupt? We do things like we listen to calls. I call listen once a week, whether that's customer services or sales or what, just to keep in touch. This is an example we had about a year ago, and see that little thing at the top, it basically says, I basically got sold, and I thought it was a good idea about social proving, going like 25 people have bought this appliance, and like just to give a bit of context that people were on the website, and it wasn't working, so we went and put it through our customer labs. And this is what happened.
As you kind of scroll up and down the page, just have a little look at that page.
Yeah, that knocks me when I get that.
It knocks you?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't want to know. It's like when you go on Booking or Hotels.com, it's taken off that. 32 people are watching this hotel. 25 people have just booked this hotel. So what? Yeah, I want to tell. I don't want to know who's bought it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to buy the teller, and it's just things like that. Just get it away.
Don't have blind execs. Like the highest paid person in the room shouldn't be able to just pull the weight. Use it on facts, use it on evidence, and I'm sure you've all, based on the chuckles here, I'm sure you've all had, just do that, that's the right thing. Try and eliminate, I think, and that goes for me as well. I'm probably the worst for it. But we just sort of base everything on insight and data and really understand what your customers want. So that's principle 2. Principle 3 is build an amazing plan. So it comes back to that North Star again. So what is your vision? Then actually it's really, really important then on to what does your cathedral look like? It's really important your teams can visualize what that looks like. Otherwise, and they know sort of what brick they're playing as part of that. It comes back to that meaning again. If you haven't defined what that cathedral is and you operate your business on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis and you're just on this never-ending treadmill, it's not very motivating. So do you have that cathedral? And then once you've done that, it's really important you do the architecture for that and so on, and build that plan all the way down. And that's really what AO's done. It's done lots of iterations over that, and you reinvent the cathedral and you keep going on. So what makes us stand out now? And our differences now is basically saving customers time. So we offer the best content and the quickest and most convenient journey. Like, you can't compete on price because everyone does. And people value their money or their time, so compete on time. And we can do it better than anyone else. And also offering a really good caring service as well, not just once we've got your money, we chuck you away. Like, it's really important. Our repeat business is a phenomenal asset of ours.
So as Andy mentioned, we've been dealing with one specific portfolio for a while. Basically reviewing the entire operational procedure from tenant or housing officer submitting an issue or repair all the way to what happens afterwards, how do the contractors behave. And we've done thousands of jobs now through our platform, and some of the results we'll guide you through. So we basically been able to reduce the cost of repair by around 11% compared to previously. Now, this might not sound as big as for some smaller players, but if you're running big budgets, it's actually quite a lot of money. More importantly, we actually reduced the amount of work orders coming through by a staggering 45%, because we build technology that enables our housing officers, customer service teams, or tenants to report jobs in a better way, which means the contractors can actually do 2 or 3 jobs at a time, instead of having one electrician go out, one plumber go out. multi-trade companies can sort out a few things. So we almost halved the work orders that are coming through, which resulted in significant cost savings. Plus, we reduced the average repair cost by 11%. We changed the price variance by 26%. I think we're actually higher on that, but ultimately, the way our platform works, contractors quote on our platform if there's enough information, and that's the quote. It's not a call-out fee. It's not a, I think this might be the price, but they're quoting for it. They're competing for it. We have up to 5 contractors that can actually go for a piece of work. And if they need more information, they can obviously visit the property. We're doing all sorts of interesting things with virtual tours to help with void jobs in a more virtual way. And overall, we've been able to bring down the quote variance by 26%. And one of the big worries was, can this system, the Uber-style algorithm that connects it with the local guys, actually deliver the right service model? And we found that it does, because it goes to the main source, the local source, and most of our jobs are quoted in the first 24 hours. Oftentimes in the first hour, you get 3-4 quotes through it.
So, I thought I'd just give you a really quick overview of what we mean by field dynamics and analysing field operations. So, I saw this BT logo here. So, what I thought I'd do is imagine this is a map, okay? And what I've got here is some Smarties, and I'm going to spray these Smarties out across the logo. And that's actually what a field operation looks like on a day-to-day basis, okay? So, we've got a whole bunch of appointments serviced in different locations. We've got different operatives serving different areas with different types of assets, with different types of challenges. We've even got some people who are supposed to be working in certain areas, but actually they spend the majority of their time working outside the area that they're supposed to be focusing on. And the first thing we're trying to get an understanding of is, how efficient are they? Could they do a better job? So if this is Monday, and let's say if I just go around here and say, okay, right, that's Tuesday. Okay, how much more efficient is Monday than Tuesday? That's quite hard to work out. So that's what we spent a lot of our time at our organisation delivering projects to our customers in and around. So we're talking to lots of organisations who've got big fleets, sometimes thousands and thousands of vehicles, all sorts of different shapes and sizes. How do I transition from one to the other? And people are doing some crazy things. So this is just a couple of screenshots from some of the field surveys we did on a kind of EV model that we developed. And you can see this crazy cat's got an overhead cable out of his property, out of his bedroom window, that's being plugged into his Mitsubishi FEV. I was actually with an organisation last week who said this happened all the time in China, and this is going on quite a lot. There's a discussion point to say, okay, is anybody actually breaking any bylaws there? But EV is coming, and parking probability, we've done some really interesting things there. So we've developed a model where we've worked out for every property in the country, can you park and charge a van or a car on your drive? So we've looked, can you park vertically? Can you park horizontally? And we've got this concept of a parkable polygon that we've created, and we've done all sorts of measurements and ratios to kind of look at that probability of parking. We've done lots of other models looking at things like electric forecourts and things like that, which is kind of sort of slightly unrelated. But for people who have vehicles and they take them home at the end of the day, there's an interesting kind of concept there.
We truly believe that the whole concept of property management is an inefficient cost centre that sits in the middle of everyone's operations. It's the 3% of yield that disappears in communication, in accessing information from across multiple different systems. We sat with one large property manager in New York not long ago for a couple of days in their IT department. They had 50 separate systems that are used to manage their properties, none of which talk to each other, none of which are integrated. They've got a team of 8 people managing software, as well as their property management teams on top of that. Property management comes down to information management. It's talking to tenants, understanding what their concerns or needs are. It's talking to the internal operational teams. It's looking things up in these various spurious systems. And it's a problem that is cutting at everybody's yield.
Some of the issues that we've had, when I first joined the Met Office, about 90% of the traffic coming to the organisation was through our weather forecast pages. So effectively we have 5,000 home pages, if you like, London weather, Nottingham weather, Exeter weather, Bristol weather, for example. But what we found since around 2012, 2013, this was a chart from a company called Moz, and the impact of Google. So Google drives about 80% of our traffic to the Met Office. So for us to understand where are the key channels that users are using to drive weather information, it's important for us to position ourselves around that way. But when Google launched Google Weather, that had a huge impact on how we drove traffic to the Met Office around weather forecasts. It really, really impacted how we were doing that, as well as the growth in aggregators. So here MSN, Yahoo, Facebook, social media are now using their own weather providers, such as the Weather Channel, to add access to their user base as well. So we had to really spend a long time moving away from the tactical elements of digital and understanding the strategy, the brand purpose, and how we could reposition the Met Office to compete in this competitive marketplace. So what we did was what we started from the customer, which was what we're finding from a lot of organisations now. We started our whole strategy from bringing the customer to the centre of our conversation. And I'm sure many digital marketers in the room have heard that the buzz around content marketing. Content marketing for the Met Office was a key strategic element that has allowed us to differentiate our proposition and driven buy-in and transformation within the organisation. We spend a lot of time understanding our users, understanding the market we operate, and orientating the Met Office to start with the user first rather than perhaps the shiny tactics, as we say. Understanding our different audiences, whether that's from B2B or B2C, how we were going to position ourselves, and then beginning to understand what are the right tactics that we want to position the Met Office that continue to build our reach and in turn our engagement, and also that revenue stream through sponsorship around Met Office content.
When you're working with different organisations, what are the key things that you look for that you think actually these guys have got the right ingredients to do something innovative by working with some of the startups and things like that?
So I think the first thing we need to look for is are they open to collaboration? So one of the key points which I drive for quite a lot is innovation does not exist in isolation, and there perhaps historically was this idea of, we didn't invent it here, so therefore it's no good. And actually, as time's gone on, we've realised that I don't have all the answers, and the guys over there don't have all the answers. But actually, by working together and being a lot more open, more collaborative, we can actually find a way of working that everyone benefits.
Mm. And from your perspective, Cindy, I mean, you've come in from the startup perspective, working in different corporate organisations. How's that experience been for you?
Everyone loves a startup. The energy in startup mode is absolutely fantastic. I think you definitely benefit if you've had experience in corporate before, because you can sort of see where you want to get to, but you can also try and avoid the pieces that you don't want to get to. We've had a fantastic opportunity as a startup working with some really established organisations, including the John Lewis Partnership, and working at a senior level with those people has been an enormous boost to us.
And for anybody thinking of getting involved in startups, what's the most valuable piece for you from the people that you've worked with? What have you said, wow, that's really made a difference to me?
In terms of having the expertise of corporate, as a startup, you're very nimble, you're very dynamic. The whole point of you is you can move quickly, make things happen. But actually working with big corporates that have a fantastic infrastructure in place, you take the best of them, you take the best of you. I think we can deliver massive value to a corporate because we work really hard. So our very small team delivers the power of a very big team, I like to think. But in the same way, you're drawing on this expertise, years and years of experience. And if you can show how you can improve something in a corporation, you've got half a chance of sort of infiltrating and making something happen.
What I often see within organisations, particularly big corporates, is with regard to the fear of failure, the practical application of that is sort of decision paralysis. And so my kind of response back to that is to worry less about making the wrong decision and kind of worry more about recovering faster. I think that failure is essentially being recalibrated. We live in an era of unprecedented opportunity for entrepreneurialism and innovation. And if you speak to startups and the repeat behaviour of successful entrepreneurs is that they don't stop to relish failure, they barely recognise it. It's just part of the process, you know, it's just iterative. And I have one venture in particular, and the entrepreneur is quite an elite mathematician, and it just doesn't occur to him. You know, he's just constantly computing, well, that didn't work, so I'll do this now. You know, there's absolutely no emotion about it whatsoever. Just to be really clear, my view is passionate. All businesses are digital. Doesn't matter what their social orientation is. I have a local business just opened up on my high street. They've spent a ton of money. This one individual's probably spent in excess of £100,000 furbishing a shop. It doesn't have a website. It does not have a website. I cannot find it online. It's nuts. Absolutely crazy in this day and age. So I think with my own personal portfolio, all my ventures are very purposeful businesses, without exception. And there is a common theme, which is flourish. They're all there to help people or businesses flourish. But be really clear, though, they are all for profit. And there is an undercurrent within the social movement I think is really negative, which is anti-profit. And I think that's not helpful. And I think it's alienated a lot of people who are commercially driven. And I think that it's quite right to be purposeful. And if you want to be profit motivated, that's also your prerogative. And I think that's still a tension point. And it is that tension point that has created a disharmony within the sector.
What would your views be about what is going to make an attractive employer of the future? What are they going to have to offer?
I think there's two different questions there. So the first one is, how do you attract brilliant talent when you're disadvantaged on things like salary or whatever? I think the solution to that is easy. And I think that the corporates do it well. If you want to get the world's best engineers, have the world's best problems. And that's what gets them. And I think that actually if you've got a social purpose, you're more entitled to have a better quality problem than a MasterCard, for instance, would be my argument. I think with regard to what makes a great sort of employee, I don't think those things have changed. I think just how you attain them has changed, because there is obviously a bit of digital literacy. But what employers want are people who've got, you know, the classic cliches of like a can-do attitude, who are purposeful, driven and committed and got conviction, common sense, all those sorts of things. But it's just that needs to be packaged in a digital context, that they're sufficiently digitally native to be able to operate in that world and deal with a bit of ambiguity. Jobs aren't for life anymore.
Just do it. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. You know, just identify a challenge and say, right, we're going to focus on this. We're going to find a startup. We're going to bring them in. We're going to spend some time collaborating and just seeing if it works. And you know what? It might not work. But whilst through that process, you'll actually understand more about your own business at the same time. So just commit. Just go for it.
I would say exactly the same thing. I've already had a couple of very good conversations over lunch where we've said, let's work on some projects together, but let's start really small so that we can see what does work for the wider community, for us as a business, for you as an organisation. And let's be prepared to make a couple of mistakes, but let's get something off the ground, because like you, I'd like, positive change to come out of all of this effort Ian's gone to bring us all together. Let's make some stuff happen.
I think for me it would be know what problem you're solving, both at a strategic and a tactical level. It never fails to astonish me how many C-suites I meet or executives who can't answer that question and can't answer it coherently, can't answer it with conviction or with power, either at a macro level or at a what problem are you solving today? You know, what's your number one thing today? And so I'd say know what problem you're solving. And then be gracefully intolerant. The problem is that a lot of bosses are just intolerant, but it's being so gracefully. You know, in work, work is no longer about telling people off. It's about empowering them and holding them to account. It's a big difference.
So our plan, going right back to the beginning, was to set up a system where we can compete with ourselves. We didn't want a new market entrant to come in and compete directly with us, so we said, let's do it ourselves and see what we learn. It was a really, actually quite a simple process. We had 2 teams. In our office, we're on 2 floors, there were 2 rooms. We effectively kept pretty much the core business, which is our B2B focused in the original office, and we set up a new team in the downstairs office with some of our brightest, best people, and we brought in a couple of new people too. Both teams had a great team, some revenue to support them. They had, the only real rules of the game were they had to increase sharing, so get the most people sharing they possibly could, build a sustainable revenue model, and to have a happy team working there. And in 18 months, we would decide which team won, and then we'd go with that plan. So the 2 teams, the B2B team, they decided that they were going to focus entirely on client satisfaction, keeping our clients really happy, getting them to really understanding what they valued, giving them what they wanted, provide brilliant service, lots of non-technology things. We ran amazing events of behaviour change events to get all their staff sharing cars, and that was the focus for that side. We set up a new consumer-focused team, knowing how consumers were becoming ever more powerful in the marketplace. We thought, let's set up a team that will focus purely on consumers, not worry about businesses at all. And this team, because of the consumer focus, thought, let's focus on technology. So they built some amazing, amazing technology that was totally, the UX was incredible. And their challenge was to find a financially successful business model to extract money out of the consumers to pay for the growth moving forward. In this case, they opted for a payment model with a wallet, so that users would pay each other and we would take a commission through that system. Fast forward, over the course of the next 18 months, the consumer team built amazing technology, but they could not find a business model that worked, or a business model that worked that drove significant numbers of sharing. They got a few people to pay through the wallet, but it actually proved a barrier for users to pay through the system, and fewer people were sharing. The B2B team did an amazing job of delighting clients, but they kept using the old technology, and it just was really starting to slow them down in terms of how they wanted to move forward. So, sorry about these next few images. So who won? Quick definition of trumping. I think he's well named. Pick which of those definitions you want. I'll move on quickly. So, Trump won. Consumers are now in charge. I've heard it in a few of the talks today. It is so true. When I set LiftShare up, consumers 20 years ago were sort of second-class citizens. Corporations were in charge, and then banks became in charge, and before them, industrialists, and before them, probably religions. Suddenly, in our age, consumers are in charge. They're in charge because they're empowered, and they're empowered through their phones and through easy access to pretty much anything they want. So they are the most important thing.